Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very first episode of the Plant Code Podcast. I'm Max.
I'm Erik.
And we're super excited to be here today. We've been putting this off for ages, but finally we're going to get round to it. We're here in our studio.
It's an apartment.
It's a studio.
It's an apartment.
It's literally a studio. There's a bed in it, in the living room, so that makes it a studio.
Dirty laundry, washing machine, dining table, bed.
Regardless, it may look unprofessional, but we are professionals.
We are.
When it comes to serious topics. The title of today's episode is
Deadly Dairy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Good sound effect.
Thank you. We're working on getting better sound effects, but we don't have the budget yet, so subscribe please, and then maybe we'll think about that in the future.
Yes.
Right, let's get to it. Erik, what is milk?
Milk is a form of nourishment for the young, whether it's from a cow for its calf, or from a human mother to its baby. That's.
And would you drink another animal's milk? Would you drink dog's milk?
Never.
Would you drink cockroach milk? Cockroaches do produce milk.
No, do they?
They do.
Really?
Yeah.
Intense. But simple answer to that. Of course, no, of course not.
So why do we drink cow's milk?
Well, that's something I think that's it's you find it on every shelf in the supermarket, and it's something that we've all been brought up with, and we believe that it's good.
Yeah, it's true. Whenever you talk about it, people always think it's disgusting when you consider drinking dog's milk, drinking elephant milk, but cow's milk has become such a huge part of our culture today, and people consider it to be natural, but in our research we found that cow's milk, be it organic or otherwise, has been shown to contain 35 different hormones and 11 growth factors, which is far from natural in my opinion.
And then on top of that as well, you know, when they extract the milk from, let's say, the cow, the amount of stress that builds in, and we know that whenever you are stressed, it affects the hormones of, even if it's a human or if it's a cow or any form of a living organism. On top of that, you know, you're getting the stress level hormones on top of that. I mean, it's ridiculous. But this is obviously something that as a kid you have no idea, and I think a lot of people as well have no real idea. And that's why we're here, to tell you guys about this.
Yeah, to ask the right questions, to really think about why are we consuming this product that is made for a baby cow and not for adults. Speaking of adults, found some interesting facts about the USDA, which is the United States Department of Agriculture. And every now and then they make a nutrition guide for the population. And in their recent one, which they called My Plate, which replaced what they had before, the My Pyramid, they like the My thing here going on. It was, they recommend 3 glasses of milk per adult male.
And that's cow milk.
That's cow milk, yeah. That's not like still your mum's milk, you know, for an adult. I don't think your mum would agree on that.
Or pigeon milk.
Well, maybe pigeon milk would be good for you. Apparently rat's milk has a really high protein count.
Well, there's a lot of things that they say have a high protein count. Like they even say that sperm has a high protein rate.
There's no way I'm drinking 3 glasses of that per day. Anyway,
Okay, let's not digress here. Let's get back into the track here. But so yeah, you said 3 glasses of milk.
Yeah.
Is what they recommend.
That's what's recommended by the USDA.
Of course, the US.
And it's supposed to protect you against osteoporosis, which is bone weakness. But before we get into that, I didn't know what the USDA was, so I Googled it, and I obviously fell on Wikipedia, which is a great source of information.
Yeah. Whatever Wikipedia tells you, factual, straight
Gotta
up.
be true. And so in the first line of the definition of USDA, they say that the USDA aims to meet the needs of farmers and ranchers, promote agricultural trade and production, work to assure food safety, protect natural resources, foster rural communities, and end hunger in the United States and internationally. Which sounds great, but then it says nothing about people's health.
Right.
It's not saying we're here to ensure the US people and the rest of the world are healthy.
No.
It's promoting the needs of farmers and ranchers in agricultural trade.
Of course, yeah. It's always like anything in terms of, okay, now we're not talking specific about meat, but the same is with the meat. They will always try to emphasis on that you need, and it's a daily requirement. There are obviously, in most foods, there will always be some form of nutrient that is good for you. And in dairy, there can be, they say calcium is one of the things that has good nutrient for the human body.
It is very high in calcium, there's no doubt about that. But when you're drinking milk, you're getting a very high amount of calcium, but then there's all the other additives and all of the other bad stuff that you're putting into your body.
Right, but like I said there, so with, let's say with milk in that sense, they will emphasize on the fact that, oh, it is high in calcium, but there are so many other worse things in milk that is not good for you. So they kind of cancel that out, and then they promote the fact like, oh, it's calcium rich, you should buy it, therefore support our farming industry, so we get more money.
It makes sense for them to promote 3 glasses of milk per day, because if you think 3 glasses of milk per day for the 290 million Americans, that's a lot of milk, and they're going to be selling a lot of milk products, and that's basically what they're trying to do here. They're not trying to support health. There've been public health reports. There's one by the Harvard T.H. Chan School, and they say that there's no evidence that the dairy is actually promoting people's health, that it can even have a harmful effect on people's health.
Oh yeah.
And also a study on over 96,000 people in the British Medical Journal mentioned that the more milk that men consumed as teenagers, the more bone fractures they experienced.
Bro factor. It decreases.
Decreases the bro factor. And the more bone fractures they experienced as adults, which is completely the contrary. It was what they're trying to sell.
Right.
Initially in their product.
But they will never mention that, obviously, because then people will be like, oh, why am I drinking this? For them, the only marketing concept that they have to sell milk is that it is high in calcium. That's it. They will never mention about whatever the side effects, or it increases the chance of getting bone diseases for the men. So,
and dairy is such a big topic, especially when it comes to veganism, because a lot of people kind of accept the idea of cutting down on meat, cutting down on fish, cutting down on eggs. But people really struggle to give up the dairy products. First of all, because it's everywhere. And second of all, because honestly, it does. It tastes good. Personally, I like the taste of cheese, and it is quite addictive.
That is the only thing I'm happy about, is like, I never ate cheese before I became vegan. I never liked cheese. So for me, that was a huge advantage already, because like you said yourself, you grew up in a place where cheese was a regular thing, and you produce, well, you know, some of the world's most authentic sorts of cheeses, and then all of a sudden, from one day to the other,
that country is France, by the way. I think I better clarify that.
This is no partnership with France, by the way. So
no, but you still shouldn't be eating cheese, and it's hard. It's a big cultural thing in a lot of places. Cheese on top, extra cheese, everything, everywhere.
And this is a good thing. One thing that I remember you told me, because I asked you that thing about like, oh yeah, you used to eat so much cheese, and it was all from Roquefort cheese, Roquefort cheese, and blue cheese and whatnot. And then you just have to stop. And then you said, but it's still no excuse. And I think that is as short and brief as it was, but that was so powerful. And I think that's with everything, like when we are so used to consuming meat, or if it's like dairy in this case, even though you've been exposed to daily and it was a part of your daily plate, there's still no excuse for you to eat it. Or
yeah, I mean, a lot of people saying, oh, growing up in France, but it's part of your culture, you can't give it up. But then I was born in the UK, and slavery was part of our culture for hundreds of years. I mean, we're not talking about slavery today, but it doesn't make it right. It's not because it's something that's been going on for generations that you have to continue it. Segregation, that went on for years. That's the way things were, but things change. Mentalities have to change and progress. And I think in today's world, we've reached that point where the dairy industry is something that needs to stop as well.
Yeah, today's world, the new generation Z, as they call it, or the iGen, we are...
iGen?
Yeah.
Who's the iGen?
The iGens are the people that are born from 95 and onwards. So it's basically, from 95, they changed from millennials to the iGen, or Generation Z, because that's when the internet became public. But they've done a study that people that are born between 95 and onwards are far more, they accept change a lot more easier than the previous generations. So like, let's say if I were to tell my mom to start practicing a vegan diet, it will be far more difficult for her than for someone that was a millennial or something that I wanted to like. Yeah, it's a lot easier.
People of our generation are very pushed towards finding the truth, knowledge. We like to Google things. We like to research things. We don't believe common knowledge these days, and that's the thing about dairy. A lot about dairy is common knowledge. Like, you need to drink milk. You need that calcium, and you do need that calcium. And obviously, I think something we need to talk about now is if you're not going to indulge in dairy products, where are you going to get your calcium from?
So you need approximately 1,000 milligrams of calcium per day. And on a plant-based diet, there's multiple options that you can do. Let's say 1 cup of whole almonds contains almost 385 milligrams of calcium. There's even been studies saying that there's more calcium in kale than there is in milk per calorie. So 90 grams per serving would have more calcium than milk would have, and it's also better absorbed by the body than. There's no way of denying the fact that cow's milk has a very high calcium supply. So I think it's around 300 milligrams per cup. But once again, there are multiple different non-dairy sources of calcium. Fortified soy milk.
Fortified soy milk for you, for the family.
Only $8.99 per cup. So roughly 1 cup of fortified soy milk contains about the same amount of calcium as equivalents to cow's milk.
That's interesting. And also chia seeds, which is one of my favorite sources of calcium. 2 tablespoons of chia seeds provides about 180 milligrams of calcium. I often put them in my oats in the morning. You can put them in water, lots of different things you can do with them. And the thing that a lot of people mention about cow's milk is that it is cheap, because obviously it's subsidized by the government. And it is a lot more affordable than these options that we just gave you. So for a few more affordable options of calcium, you have broccoli, sweet potato, most of the vegetables. Bok choy.
Baked beans.
Baked beans,
but
great source.
As well, then baked beans, pumped with sugar, it's processed foods. You will obviously get far lower calcium rates than you would do probably if you would buy the beans them yourself and sort of.
We're trying to promote obviously the less processed diet.
Obviously, it's more organic in that sense.
Baked beans or milk?
Baked beans
all the way.
For me, well, I like both. Can you mix? We can blend. We should try that. We should blend soy milk and baked beans.
That'd be disgusting.
Yeah, probably, but that's life. It's a lot of disgusting things.
Okay, so the other nutritional aspect that people use to justify consuming milk, dairy products, is vitamin D. It is an essential vitamin, and a deficiency can be linked to cancer, depression, muscle weakness, and other very serious illnesses. So it's something that you really should take seriously. And my first tip for you to get a reasonable amount of vitamin D every day is go outside. Literally, yeah.
There you go.
Take this podcast, get some earphones, sit outside in the sun. If it's raining, put a bright light on. That actually still does work, apparently.
Yes. But don't put the bright light on your screen, because that's not the same.
No, definitely not the same. And for food-wise, for example, mushrooms and algae, they're great sources of vitamin D as well, because they absorb it naturally, because they're left outside. Well, they grow outside, obviously. They don't grow indoors.
But yeah, I actually haven't checked this up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the plants that are grown outside, they are all dependent on sunlight to some extent. And since you said that the sun is one of the primary elements that we have to give vitamin D to us, or for us to absorb vitamin D, every plant obviously will have a form of absorption from sunlight, which, preserve some form of vitamin D. Do you know what I mean?
True. But I think some vegetables and plants absorb it and store it better than others. For example, mushrooms and algae, they're kind of like, they just absorb water, they absorb everything. So I think they kind of absorb that vitamin D probably better than most. But definitely, yeah, that's the great thing about when you eat a plant-based diet, is that whatever you eat, you're going to be gaining nutrients from every single food source. And a lot of good stuff that's not necessarily the main source. For example, iron, potassium, and all this stuff. Whereas when you're consuming a dairy product, you're consuming mainly a lot of awful stuff for your health. People talk a lot about vitamin B12, and there will be another episode of this podcast about vitamin B12.
That was my biggest struggle, actually, when I became a vegan.
Yeah, it's true. But then, just very quickly on that topic, before we discuss it more in the next episode, is even the animal products, they're injected with B12. So a lot of people say, oh, but your soy milk is fortified in vitamin D, or it's fortified in calcium. But even meat, dairy, that's also fortified in most vitamin sources that you're getting from them.
And if you don't believe us, do go on and read the China study.
Yeah, published in 2005, Dr. Campbell. Over 20 years of research, him and his son. We're going to actually put a link towards a short video where he's talking about the health impact of the dairy industry. So let's move on to our second myth that we're going to debunk. And a lot of people think that dairy cows do not suffer and that you have to milk them or they're going to explode, or that they just produce naturally milk. Erik, please take over because I'm going to lose my shit on this.
Oh my god, yeah, no, it's, I don't know how many people obviously has been to ever a farm or so on and so forth, and yeah, when you walk, depending on where you pass yourself by a farm, yeah, the cows are walking freely, and it looks peaceful when they are, you know, in the fence perimeter, but, I mean, I have personally never been inside, and I would never want to go inside, but inside where they extract, read plenty of journals about
Forks
this.
Over Knives, guys, if you really want to see into the dairy industry, Forks Over Knives is the best one you want to be watching. There's a few more. We'll probably put a few different little documentation for you in the links below so you can follow up on it. But as Erik's saying, like, it is ridiculous, the dairy industry, especially in today's world where everything is industrialized, everything's a commodity, everything's a product. There's no concern for the suffering. According to the Agricultural and Horticulture Development Board in 2016, there are over 273 million dairy cows worldwide. That's almost like,
and
that's
even
a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. And also the fact that, you know, when the cow gives birth to a calf, they are separated instantaneously. The milk is at its richest, and that's when they can get as much out. That's when they can really extract as much and just exhaust that cow. If it's a male calf, it will obviously be taken to the slaughter facility and made veal. If it's a female, it will obviously be used as a further dairy production. Once again, what goes on behind the walls in a farm where they extract the dairy from cows, it's nothing pleasant. It's nothing that nobody wants to see. But I think sometimes it is necessary for people to see it, to actually get the idea what the hell is going on.
Yeah, and there's a big discussion at the moment about feminism and eggs, but I think you can also relate that to dairy as well. I mean, as a woman, if you were to be raped, to be impregnated, your baby is then taken away from you, and then your milk is being milked 2 to 3 times a day for the following 10 months, and then you're raped again and impregnated again just like 2-3 months after giving birth. Most of these cows, they die after 4 or 5 years because they can't take it. The natural lifespan for a cow is 20 to 25 years. And a lot of people justify eating dairy by saying, but the cows aren't killed. But every dairy cow is killed for meat, for beef, after the 4 or 5 years when it dries up, as they say. So you can't justify consuming dairy products by saying the animal isn't hurt, because that same cow is the beef that you're going to be eating on your next meal. So the only way you can do it is by not supporting it. And today, like we said, it's not natural milk. These dairy cows are producing 10 times the amount of milk than they would naturally due to selective breeding, of the growth hormones that are injected. And those are the things that you're directly consuming. And there's pus content, there's so much bad stuff in it.
Yeah, and there's also an amazing 5-minute video, so if you've got 5 minutes to spare, check it out. It's on YouTube. It's made by Erin, Janus, and it's called Dairy is Scary.
Isn't that the name of our podcast?
No, it's Deadly Dairy.
Deadly Dairy.
Yeah. Close though. No, but we definitely recommend that you check it out. It's super informative, and it's quite graphic, and it's good if you have any doubts about dairy or the dairy industry. If you still eat cheese, definitely worth checking out.
I recommend that you watch this video, you share that video on your social media, because a lot of people don't want to see the shocking stuff, but at the end of the day, you've got to confront it, you've got to see what's going on, you've got to see what you're eating. And also, if you like this podcast, feel free to share that as well.
So, we have one more point that we want to cover, and that is, how does the dairy impact the environment?
It's massive, and it's still growing, unfortunately, because the demand in China, in India, is still growing due to prosperity, urbanization, the acquiring Western taste due to our fast food industry. And so dairy industries have to become more productive, more profitable, and that's with complete disregard to the ecological impact that they have. We've found from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization that dairy consumption jumped 32%. That's like a third. I'm not very good at math. From 1990 to 2005. So that's in, what, 25 years?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a really long silence.
That was silence. We could have actually had time to put in a commercial in between.
Yeah, we'll put the jingle.
Yeah, we'll put a jingle in, actually. Oh yeah, we haven't played the jingle. We'll play the jingle.
Yeah, play the jingle.
So that's our jingle. If you like it, great, because we do. And if you don't, deal with it.
Maybe we'll work on another one anyway in the weeks to come. And the other impact on the deforestation in Latin America, and a lot of people blame vegans because, yeah, there's a lot of soy products being planted.
Oh yeah, I always get the fact like, oh yeah, you're eating the cow's food.
That's the most ridiculous thing because most of the soy that's being produced is for the cows, be that beef or dairy.
If a cow personally comes up to me and speaks human, and it says like, stop eating our food, then I will find different alternatives.
But the thing is, we're feeding that cow to eat that cow.
And also to produce milk, cows need a lot of water, in fact, to actually, I would say, healthy as possible. And according to dairyher.com, cows need to consume an estimate between 30 to 50 gallons of water, and in other units, that's 110 to 190 liters per day to produce an estimate of 6 to 7 gallons of milk.
That's 23 to 26 liters per day. We did the math before this podcast with not Rain Man. I don't know who still uses this imperial system, to be honest.
No.
We should just talk in liters from now on.
We should talk in liters, or we can use Newton's units.
In just cow pus.
Cow units. But jokes aside, it is a immense amount of water in order to just produce 6 to 7 gallons of milk.
I was reading a lot of articles recently about how much water you need per liter of milk. There's a lot of different sources. I mean, because I don't want to give information that's wild. Like, you have some very ultra websites. They're like, oh, you need 2,000 liters of water to produce 1 glass of milk. And then you go to the dairy websites and they're like, it's 4.5 liters of water per liter of milk. Found an interesting number from the Institution of Mechanical Engineering, which is a charity. So it's kind of in the middle. So they're saying it's 1,020 liters of water per liter of milk. So that's like 255 liters per glass.
What? Wow. 1,020 liters is in order to produce 1 liter of milk.
Yeah, but that's taking into account the water that's used to feed the crops. So that's taking into account that the cow drinks, the water that's taken into account to clean all the farms. I mean, they obviously thoroughly researched these numbers. It's not, a cow's not drinking 1,020 liters of water to produce 1 liter of milk.
Bloated, poor thing.
And just quickly back onto almond milk, because a lot of people say, but it takes a lot of water to produce almonds.
I heard that. Yeah.
However, it's still half the amount that it takes to produce cow's milk, plus no one's suffering. And it tastes a lot better.
True that. Right, Max. Give us a quick fun fact about cow farts.
Time to wrap it up. I'm going to leave you with some smelly facts here.
Excellent thing to end it up with.
It is. We do like inappropriate conversation. So, a cow releases about 70 to 120 kilograms of methane per year. Methane is a greenhouse gas, and its negative effect is 23 times higher than CO2. That's according to timeforchange.org. Super interesting website, by the way. So, each cow releases the equivalent of you burning 1,000 liters of petrol. How many gallons is that?
A lot.
We don't know. No. With the car using 8 liters of petrol per 100 kilometers. That's an average size car, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
You could drive 12,500 kilometers per year and pollute as much as 1 dairy cow.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying,
go and inhale the farts from the cow.
I'm saying stop supporting an industry that's destroying your health,
right,
our planet, and you're making animals suffer. Those are the 3 reasons, and it should be enough for you to stop eating these products. And especially nowadays, you have plenty of alternative milk products and just milks itself. If you like milk in your coffee, Erik, tell me some milks.
Right. So, well, obviously we got the classic soy milk and the almond, rice milk, coconut and I'm a big fan of coconut actually. Flax milk, surprisingly, I've never tried.
Really?
Maybe I have, but it doesn't really cross my mind.
It's not as popular.
No, it's not as popular. Hemp milk, I think, is also not as popular. I don't think there's
Cashew is pretty popular as well now.
cashew milk. Yeah, we mentioned rice.
I mean, the list is endless. I mean, if you want to tell us what's your favorite dairy replacement products, we'd be happy to hear from you. Contact us on our Instagram.
The Plant Code. There you'll be able to find a lot of content that we'll be sharing, and if you feel like it's worth sharing, please do share it as well. And you can also contact us there through our direct message. And yeah, that's...
You'll find out a lot more about the next episodes that'll be coming. There's going to be one a week. What are we going to be talking about next week, Erik?
Alcohol!
A very important subject to both of us.
On a consumer basis.
We're going to be discussing which alcohols are vegan, which ones are not, how you can choose, providing a little bit more insight into the world of beverage.
Yep, so that's all for now.
It was great having you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm Erik.
I'm Max.
And thank you for tuning in.
See you guys next week.
Love you all.